I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome back to News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Zohran Mamdani getting some heat because of some folks he took some pictures with and who have some connection to terror. So there's that. We'll be talking about a little bit of the No King's Day stuff going on, which I spent the most of that day with a sinus headache. So I had thought about like, oh, well, you kind of need to go up there and do some man on the street stuff, but I found one that was pretty funny. Maybe I'll show you guys um one at least one video. I saw people, talking about like Trump needed to be, put on a guillotine and all kinds of violent stuff. And people not being able to, like, they say he's a fascist and can't define what a fascist is, and there's tons of dumb videos like that for sure. But I saw one that was pretty funny today, so I think I'll maybe share that with you guys. Also, I wanted to touch on a few other things going on as well. But before we jump into it all, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, you guys can leave a donation on the website because it does cost to stream, run my site, all that good stuff. So you guys can support it. Very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. There is something going on that I haven't like flat out said on air that I would like some help with if people can and are able to support, and it's going to result in some really good content. It's a really good, opportunity. I just don't want to like say while I'm streaming before it happens, just due to like security reasons and stuff. So I wish I could say more or felt like I could say more, but in this day and age, I just would rather be careful. But it's going to be amazing when it's all said and done. I wish I could say more. To some people, I may say some more things like kind of privately, but like streaming, that's all I'll give you guys, and I promise you will know once it happens, once it occurs, what I'm referring to. I would also like to mention that the painting party with black tea, myself, that's hosted by my sister at her studio, she did put up the links for people to purchase tickets. So if you're interested in doing the online one, which we would, after you purchase your ticket, you get sent a link, and then you would be able to be kind of set up like a Zoom meeting, but we'd be using like my StreamYard software, and we would all be following the instructions of Tina as she teaches us how to paint. And this one's going to be like a seasonal painting. And you guys can have the option that she will send the materials to you. Or if you already have materials or you want to go out and get it yourself, there's that option too. She'll tell you what you need. That one that's going to be online is going to be on November the 2nd. So if you guys would like to participate in that, I encourage you guys to go ahead and get that ticket. There's a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. And also that same link, if you would like to do the one in person, if you're in Michigan, you guys can sign up for that as well. And that has like supplies and things like that included, obviously. And so she will have, that one's going to be like a patriotic kind of painting. So she'll teach us how to paint that. And she taught I don't know how far back I go. There's this glare from the light coming in, but it's actually kind of nice because I don't love my son's like in a different location, but it's got that nice light coming in right now from the from the window. But it's based off of like Psalms 121, and so we all painted the same thing. I haven't painted I hadn't painted in like 18 years. So she did a very good job teaching us. So if you guys are interested in anything like that, you guys can sign up for that. Also, uh, another announcement: this Saturday is my children's book party. So if you would like to come in person to get like a signed copy, whether it's paperback or it's a hardcover like this, we're doing readings, we're doing Q&As, we're doing lessons for children if they want to know how to draw. So it'll be a really cool event. So that'll also be like in Michigan. So someone sent me a message and asked if I was going to do one in Florida. I'm like, I would love to just go hang and chill in Florida, but I don't have the kind of market for that like right now. So if someone wants to invite and put that on and like cover those kinds of things, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Certainly not. Certainly not. But I'm excited. I got some like press release stuff that's supposed to be going out tomorrow. And I don't know, hopefully get some media for it or whatever. But I'm really excited for the book. It's really a labor of love that I've been working on for a while. So I know you guys have heard me talk about it for a while, and I'm glad that it's finally coming out. So this weekend is a release party, but the actual release date will be on the 28th. So then it's available right now for pre-order on my website. And people are pre-ordering it now on my website. You guys, I would love if you just did it on my website, but you guys actually can pre-order on like Barnes and Noble and stuff too. But after the 28th, it'll be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Should be able to get on like Target.com and other places like that. And the more people do request them at the stores, the theory is that they'll like consider ordering them and putting on the shelves. But I mean, as long as people are buying them, it is what it is. And I can, pay my artist, who's my sister, and, keep my lights on. So thank you guys for listening to my spiel. I hope you guys had a good weekend. Mine was fine, besides my terrible sinus headache that pretty much derailed my Saturday. And I mostly tried to sleep it off. And so since I slept so much kind of throughout the day and the evening and stuff, I woke up really early on Sunday. So Sunday was kind of hard for my sleep, but we made a day out of it still, and I made some buttons with my nieces and nephews, so we still had a good time. But I was happy to go home and go to sleep. So I hope you guys had a good weekend. Okie dokie. So first thing I want to mention, I'd be remiss, and I have mentioned this, and I'm glad other people are mentioning this more, but there are Christians being killed in Nigeria. And I saw a video this past weekend of a pastor like standing amongst, other slain bodies of Christians, reaching out to Trump, reaching out to the United Nations, like demanding that they do something about trying to get the government of Nigeria to protect these Christians. I heard Bill Maher talk about it, I think maybe it was 2 weeks ago. And when Nancy Mace was on, and he talked about how all these Free Palestine people were talking about, oh, this is genocide going on in Israel and God in Palestine, and there's all this genocide, etc. But they're very silent about this, and the world is very silent about this, and the media is very silent about this. I saw videos of people with different family members in Nigeria talking about it. And I've never been to Nigeria. My dad went to Nigeria in 2000, and he also went with my eldest sister. And that event really changed the course of her life, because he went for maybe a few weeks, and then he went back and spent like a month there. I think that's when Gina went. I think they were there for like a month. And Gina was graduating high school. Her plan was just to kind of she'd done very well enough that she tested well enough that she could go to any school in the state of Michigan and not have to even pay for like books or anything like that. And so my dad was praying one day, and she was a bit rebellious at heart, but she didn't want to like wild and out or anything at home. And like, I guess, be a bad influence on all of her younger siblings. She was the oldest. And she also didn't want to hear lip from his sisters and stuff. Cause I don't know, sometimes they had like, oh, you just wait till you get older. She's gonna do this, she's gonna do that. And just I don't know why people just spoke, I don't know, sometimes speak really negative things into your life, even if you're family. Um but anyway, she just had this plan that she was gonna kind of go a bit of ways, in still in the state, but a ways, and just kind of do whatever she wanted to do. So my dad was praying one day, and he was in I think he was in London, and God said, would you, are you willing to sacrifice her education on the altar like Abraham did with Isaac? And he's like, I God, I'll do anything you want me to do, but this isn't like my decision. Like, she's got these scholarships, and I can't, she's like 18, I can't stop her anyway. And the Lord just said, all that's about to get messed up. And he's like, okay, well, I'm not telling her, because she'll be mad at me, and she'll be mad at you. And so no, I guess that happened before he went to London, because when he was in London, he got a phone call from her, and she was crying, and she said that all of her scholarship stuff got messed up. And he was like, how did that happen? And just incompetence, people not doing the right paperwork and this or that and stuff. And Pontiac School District, what can I say? And so she said that she was going to try to go to like a local college. And my dad was just like, what is the Lord telling you? What is the Lord telling you right now? And she just broke out into tears. And she said, the Lord wants me to go with you to Nigeria and fulfill my ministry, fulfill my calling, or whatever. So she went with him to Nigeria. And they just preached the gospel. Well, and I mean, she did speak, but he mostly preached. But I don't know, when you grow up as a PK, a lot of people say bad things about PKs, and they'll go a really negative route and be like the baddest ones in the church sometimes. And but that wasn't the case with us. But you see people say, I love you, I support you, and then they backstab you. And you just see really negative views on people. And I'm not trying to like diss the church or anything like that, because the same people who be in the church are the same people who be in the world. I mean, people are people, they have human nature, they have flesh, and they fall to certain weaknesses and things like that. So she just didn't want really anything to do, I guess, with the church after she got a certain age. And not that she didn't believe in God. So many things have happened in our lives where it be undeniable. So she, but she just didn't want to deal with people, I guess. And the people in the church, and if people were going to be fake, then she was just going to go be real out in the world, I guess. And so just seeing, I guess my dad interact with like the children in Nigeria, and like the love he had for them, and the love that those people had for him. And just seeing him operate where it was like all this other stuff in America that gets like tacked on with, I guess, American evangelism or whatever, when all that's just kind of stripped away, and you just see like people working like in the gospel, doing the work that healed a lot of hurts in her heart. So that was a very transformative time for her. And that was back in 2000. And it's just like going, I mean, I guess I don't know how dangerous it was back then, but just thinking about how dangerous it is now, it's just really heartbreaking. And there are things about them being there that was terrible at the time. Like, they both caught malaria. They didn't care for I don't know, I don't think they really care for food's not like it is over here. um they they were just uncomfortable, because just things like there's not obviously not like how it is here. And they were ready to come home. Like, they were ready to sing God Bless America when they on the plane. They could have kissed the ground when they landed in the US of A. But it was a really important trip, and his heart remained for those people. And we had people, they're no longer members of our church, but we had two young women who had joined our church, who were immigrants from Nigeria. And so again, I've never gone, but it does have a, a special place in my heart. And it is really sad what's going on. And um Islam, it is a colonizing, warmongering religion. So I'm not surprised. Um Christians are very persecuted all over the world. Um you see it a degree um here sometimes, but the things that we witness here are things like, these are bad, I guess, but a pro-lifer, being, you know, trying to convince people at abortion clinics not to kill their baby, and they end up, with charges violating the FACE Act or something, and then they go to federal prison. Thank God Trump got, some of those people out. Hobby Lobby having to defend their rights to not provide abortifacient drugs, or the Jack Phillips from Colorado, or um, you know, uh, parents not wanting to subject their kids to different LGBT stuff and having to take that up to the Supreme Court. There are things that we have to fight, but we still have the law that's on our side, hopefully. And different like remedies that we can have, and it's tough, but it's not like in other countries where you could lose your life. Like if you go to some of these Muslim countries and you give like an altar call, you know, you could lose your life. So we need to pray for the persecuted Christians around the world. And I would like, you know, for there to be some pressure, I guess, on their governments to try to protect these people and fight back against these terrorists who go around committing all these atrocities. I know that when my dad went to Pakistan, he's the one of the preacher that he was working with over there. He saw a photo with him and George W. Bush, and he's like, how do you swing that? And so I guess he had a really big church, so he was invited. And so, he told George W. Bush like his vision for, how big he wanted his church to be and how many people he wanted to reach. And George W. Bush told him like, okay, well, do you know how many people's in Pakistan? And so he told him, he's like, you need to expand your vision. So George W. Bush like witnessed to him and told him to believe God that he can do more and get more people saved. So, but from my understanding, the US government put like pressure on them a bit to like not, like, you better be nicer to these Christians and stuff. So, or else. So I know a lot of people want us to be like extreme isolationists and just feel like it's not our business to do anything else. But I I think it's very important that Christians can flourish. um I haven't said this yet, but I was just kind of thinking I was going to do a TikTok or something about it, but I might as well say it now. I think one of the best things that the Jewish community can do, or Israel can do, is to push Christianity. And I know that they don't believe the same things about Jesus Christ. They believe he's a real person, but they don't believe, that he was actually God and stuff. But or I mean, there's Messianic Jews, so I not all of them, but um they don't um they're not big on trying to expand their religion. And Islam is a danger to everyone, I think. Especially to the West, to them particularly, also to America and America interests. And they can debate them, they can fight them, but I think it would be best to convert them. And again, they're not really, it's just not, I guess, within their nature or religion or whatever to really seek out converts. But I heard Ben Shapiro say they're kind of like against it in a way. Like people do convert, but it's not something that they push like Christians push. So Islam, I've seen a lot of people try to make like we should, I don't know, be against the Jews. And their attitude is, well, at least Islam, they believe that Jesus is a prophet and they reverence him in that regard. And I think that's lame. I think downgrading him to not being God is still disrespectful. I think, you know, coming up with all this stuff 500 plus years after the fact and thinking that you're the one who got it right is disrespectful. But what they push is contrary to the core tenets of Christianity. Like there's a lot of different things that denominations and uh Protestants and Catholics, whatever, will debate about, but we know that Jesus is God. He died on the cross for the debt of our sins and rose again. And Islam contradicts those things. So we both can't be right. So and the things that we know that scholars will say, the things that we certainly know about Jesus, if he existed, is that he died, he was persecuted and died on the cross. So if we can just push the gospel, like the core tenets, and convert a lot of these Muslims, the world will be a safer, better place for these persecuted Christians, for the US, for the UK, for these Muslim countries. And my dad, he went to Pakistan and he kept those relationships with those people. He worked there back in, I think he went in like 2013. It was a long time ago, but I don't think it was 03. I think it was, yeah, it was after I went to the Philippines. So maybe it was like 2013 or something like that. I don't know. But one thing that he would do, they would go to different villages, like promote, like, hey, this preacher from America is going to be ministering, and they'd set up projectors and stuff, and he would minister to the people from his living room, right on his computer, and he'd pray for people, and they'd see miracles, and even just via him preaching through Skype, always, God's everywhere, he can do what he wants. We're not limited in that kind of way. I mean, we're limited, but God's not. But and people would convert. And actually, they had terrorists that came in, because one day they were late starting, and my dad was worried, and then they got back with him and they said that there are different terrorists that came, and they they tried to steal their equipment, and they threatened them, and ran off the people, and they're like, if you keep doing this, we're going to kill you. And my dad's like, what are you guys going to do? And they're like, well, we're going to still keep doing it. So people risk their lives for the gospel overseas. And I mean, it was dangerous when my dad went to Pakistan, so when they convert, though, they're so diligent in their religion, with with how many times they pray, and just so on, that when they actually do convert and they can feel the Holy Spirit, they are just, soul winners. Nabil Qureshi, who wrote Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, he after he got saved, he's only saved for 12 years and then passed away, but he gave his all for God. He like I think he had a medical degree, and he told everybody, he's like, I'm not going to pursue medicine, I'm just going to go full-time ministry. And they're like, are you serious? Like, are you sure about that? And he's like, no, this is what I feel called to do. And in hindsight, people didn't know that he only had 12 years to live. It's a beautiful story. I've talked about it many times. Like, please go pick up the book. You can read it. You can listen to it on audiobook. That's what I listen to. Keep the persecuted Christians in your prayers. Keep our elected officials in your prayers. Keep President Trump in your prayers. And I do pray that there is some kind of pressure to at least stop. I'm not saying that United States needs to go boots on the ground or anything like that, but there's other ways that they can, I believe, them or the United Nations in general can draw awareness to this, and try to get it to stop. And maybe it won't ever stop, because Jesus made it very clear that if the world hated him, they're going to hate you too. It just kind of comes with the territory. There are Christians who believe that, I don't know, they think bad things happen to them, and they're just so floored, and they don't understand, and it rocks their world, it rocks their faith. And I can understand being shaken. Like, some things happen you don't understand. Like, I don't understand why my mom died last year. But you still have to stand firm. and know that God is good and you can still trust in him. But life was never promised to be easy. Life was never promised to be easy. And as a matter of fact, I've told the story, I've written about it, but to my mom died a Monday night. It was shortly out. It was probably shortly after midnight because she wore like a one of those exercise watch things, and her heart rate was basically like gone shortly after midnight. And on Friday night I preached at church. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but I did preach at church. Um and my sister had told me early in the week, like, you know, I feel, you know, you should go ahead and preach. And I was waiting. I hadn't done it in a while, and I had a word that the Lord had given me, and I knew that I had to deliver it to the whole congregation, not to like a little Bible study. And so and I was really sick when I delivered it that night. And my sister, she told the church, she's like, church, I feel like Christina has a word that we all really, really need to pay attention to. And I don't know what everybody was expecting. I don't know if they're expecting me to preach miracles and blessings and breakthroughs. I don't know. But when she said that, I'm just like, geez, oh peas. And I told my youngest sister, I'm like, my sermon is on suffering. And her eyes got big. And so I preached on suffering. I preached how the idea that we're not supposed to go through things, or God will never put more on you than you can bear. I'm like, that's a Kirk Franklin song. That's not a scripture. You know, we're not called to handle everything. We're called to bear each other's burdens, and we're supposed to cast our cares upon him. And I just preached how we're supposed to, you know, lift up one another in hard times, and other things like that. And that was Friday night, and by Monday morning, barely Monday morning, my mom had died. So I didn't know that I was preparing us all to mourn her. So you can't get away from bad things happening, but I do feel like in some ways God prepares you. Like even Charlie Kirk, his wife said, like, she started reading through his journals, and it has all these different plans and different things, and she's just felt like he left those for her because she hadn't read through them before or whatever. But even going back, like the interview that he had hours before he died, before the event in Utah, he was asked like his favorite quotes and stuff, and he just talked about how God works everything. He talked about how this too shall pass, and he's like, it's very humbling because sometimes when things are good, things are going to go bad, or when some things are bad, just know that'll pass too, and the good will occur as well. And then he talked about the scriptures, like all things work together for the good of those who love him. And he's like, you have to just surrender to God's plan. And I've played it on here before for you guys. If you haven't seen it, I would look it up. But I hope when people watch that it comforts them if they are really still distraught about what happened to Charlie. And I posted something today, and I saw people were like, I still miss him. And you know, we don't understand God's plan. We don't. But we do have to surrender to it one way or another. So to be martyred, that is an honor, I guess, just to die knowing the Lord, whether, you know, you die in service of him or peacefully in your sleep, you know, is an honor one way or another. Jesus is the prize, you know. But I would like them to not have to suffer so much. So I just pray that more awareness will be brought to them, and that our government will put some pressure. But it hasn't been talked about enough. It hasn't been talked about a lot. And maybe we need to be like the pro-Palestine people that were, every video had nothing to do with Palestine, and be like, oh, what about the people in Palestine? Maybe we can say, what about the Christians in Nigeria? Like you talk so much about them. Like, can we talk about the Christians in Nigeria? Can we talk about Christian persecution? Can we talk about radical Islam? Which I don't even know if it's fair to call it radical Islam. Maybe it's just basic Islam, but you guys can say it's Islamic phobic that I said that, but I I don't know how you can have an irrational fear of that particular religion. Um, so I mentioned that Bill Maher had said it on his show. It brought it up, and Al Jazeera actually had an opinion piece. No, Bill Maher, there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria. From Boko Haram to herder-farmer clashes, Nigeria's crises are complex. Simplistic genocide claims fuel propaganda. And I'm just amazed at the nerve to say we can't just say simplistic genocide claims that fuels propaganda when we know that people have been throwing around the term genocide when it came to Israel and their war with Gaza or in Gaza, and people saying that was a genocide when it's technically not by its definition a genocide. It's absolutely not, but people would say it anyway because they know how the word affects people. And they don't it's not that people really know the definition to a T, but they understand the ramifications of that word. They don't care if it's true or not. They just like the propaganda of it, the effect of it. So I just thought that was real rich that they had their nerve to post that and say that. Anyway, the last thing I want to say before I get to the Zohran stuff. Well, before I move on, let me just peek at the comments real quick. Someone said, "I love you so much. Thank you for your post." You're welcome. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. I guess says this about Charlie. He's our modern day martyr. He gave his life in service to God. There was a I have to find it and repost it. I was going to look up more about him, but there was apparently another Christian who was killed the same day as Charlie, and so I want to I thought that was I didn't know, so I was glad to learn about it, but it's just a good reminder that I mean a lot of people knew Charlie, and that's why a lot of people are so impacted by this, or they're aware of him. Like I didn't personally know Charlie Kirk, but there are other Christians out there standing on business, I guess you could say, when it comes to the gospel or spreading the gospel or just teaching like Sunday school or just little lessons, and then they're killed. So it just needs to be talked about. There's a newsletter that I was subscribed to called Voice of Martyrs, and there's a book called Tortured for Christ. If you haven't read it, like tearjerker, but you'll be so inspired by the love that God puts in these people's hearts, even for the people who are committing such a great harm against them. It's just really really incredible. The last thing I want to say before I get to the Zohran stuff, Candace Owens, I'm sorry to say her name, but she had tweeted something about a gag order, and people are like, what's going on? Like, what do you mean a gag order about the Charlie Kirk stuff? So let me show it to you and just kind of give my thoughts. I don't want to talk about this long because I talked about the other subject for a long time. But she said, don't worry about the gag order in the Charlie Kirk case. I plan to violate it on the world's behalf. The things I've discovered this past week are enough to burn the house down. Yes, Charlie was betrayed by everyone. So you might be saying, she has a gag order? That's weird. That sounds fishy. Like, who would be having a gag order on Candace? From what everyone can gather, she means the gag order that's just kind of like typical when it comes to these trials. Or I don't even know if there's official gag order. There's something that they're trying to put in place, but they do tell people who are witnesses to these crimes to not say anything. Like when uh they had the Charlie Kirk show to address the text message that Candace leaked. Um Andrew wasn't there, so he's not an eyewitness, but the other I'm not familiar with his name, but there was another man there who's like, I was told not to say certain things because I'm an eyewitness to the crime. And you cannot just spill all this tea everywhere and just keep talking about this stuff, because there is a real life investigation and there is a real life trial that is going to go on. And I'm pretty positive, okay, that Tyler Robinson took out Charlie Kirk. There's plenty of evidence for that. I know there's people who are questioning different things. Um, a lot of things that people bring up are debunked, like the text message. Oh my gosh, she said vehicle. Who says vehicle when they're 22 years old? Well, he does. In a body cam footage, he says the word vehicle. Well, what about the gun? You can't take that gun apart without a screwdriver. Well, they did find his DNA on the screwdriver that was like recovered. So there's certain things that I don't have all the answers for everything. I don't. I'm sure we'll learn more during the trial. I dropped a water bottle. We're not meant to know everything, because Tyler, again, I'm pretty confident it was him based off of the evidence just what you have now. But he's still entitled to the presumption of innocence. I know maybe that sounds weird because we saw Charlie get popped in the neck and there's lots of video footage and his family turned him in. He still is entitled to a trial. And the suspicion with, well, one, Candace Owens has main character syndrome, I guess. So everything just kind of has to be about her. So she's making this gag order that has nothing to do with her, probably. Well, not probably, like has nothing to do with her, about her. And she keeps saying stuff like, other people can't speak, so I can speak. But she's saying, it's not that everything she says is like totally untrue, but she'll take certain grains of truth and misrepresent it and twist it in such a contorted way. And then some people might feel compelled to speak out about it and address it. But if they're witnesses to the crime, they could say too much stuff that will just compromise the trial entirely. I don't know exactly what her end goal is. I don't know if it's just clicks. I don't know if it's just attention. I don't know if it's cash. I don't, people are like, she's already got so much money. That people with a lot of money still like more money. What can I say? Maybe they like to really spend it, always have it in their pocket. Maybe they like watching the zeros go up, and their value is in the cash. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand exactly where her end goal is. Maybe she's not all there. I don't know. I don't know. But it does make it very hard to just, when she keeps spewing out all these conspiracy stuff, and maybe people can speak on something about it, they're not in the position that they can. And when other people, she'll say a conspiracy, and if people don't respond, they'll use that as evidence that she's on to something. And if someone does say something, she'll just kind of move the goalpost or not address it or whatever, or she'll like shift her position on the stuff. So just really, really irresponsible stuff again from Candace. I thought she was gonna take a break. I don't know if she's still filming her stuff, but she's still like obviously active online. And I wonder, I don't know. I just wonder what's in her head. I wonder what's in her head. I just can't imagine acting this way. Like, people are like, she's just grieving. Granted, I've never had someone that I was close to be murdered, and I don't know how close she actually was. I know they were very close. Still very close, I don't know. But I just can't imagine acting this sort of way period. Like someone had told one of my sisters after my mom died, and like, well, you know, if you can act whatever way that you want and nobody can like, tell you different, you know, because your mom just died. And we were just kind of like, that's insane. Like, like people grieve all kinds of different ways, like, but premeditated like foolishness, what was really insane to me. Like, you still have to try to, one, you have to go on with your life. Like, you're going through your mourning period. People will, um, give you some consideration while that's going on. But you have to still try to function like a normal human being. Like, people are coming against Erica Kirk as if she's in on something that happened to Charlie, because or saying that she at least doesn't care that he died because they see her show up in full face of makeup and she'll smile sometimes. Y'all don't know what happens behind the scene. Just because she cries and she just taps her makeup like that. Newsflash, that's how women cry when they have a full face of makeup. She's like a beauty queen or something like that. I didn't cry that much at my mother's funeral because I had stuff to do. We had to run the funeral, and we had to, like, I organized a lot of like the order of service and slideshow and the getting the space for the repass. And I was gonna sing, and I couldn't be all like choked up when I sang a song that was my mom's favorite song. So you know y- but you cry, you tap your face with the tissue because you don't want the streams rolling like ruining the rest of your face. And I still had makeup on my face that day. I wore a dress that my mom got me. I put on my Spanx. Like, I like it doesn't mean that you don't miss people when they die. It's just really bizarre how people look at you and treat you. But on the flip side, like, you can't just be acting crazy knowing that you just have the permission to act crazy. Now, if you just have a moment where you flip out, that people can understand you and grant you grace, but just like premeditated crazy, no. Um, but I just can't imagine like doing what she's doing, um, and trying to repaint a picture of someone that so many people knew and loved, especially to warp them into this narrative that she has. And I just can't imagine her being her. So anyway, um let's talk about the Zohran stuff. So Zohran Mamdani is in a bit of a pickle. First of all, right now it's like a three-way race. There's Cuomo and um, Curtis Silva, and apparently if it was a two-way, you'd get Cuomo, who is like within 4 points or so of actually winning. That'd be pretty stunning. So why doesn't this other guy just drop out? Is it worth Mamdani winning? Now, maybe there's nothing they can do and it's just inevitable. I'm just floored that these are the options. New York is a huge city. It's enormous. If you were an aspiring politician, like it's just amazing that Cuomo, who was forced to resign in disgrace or pushed out in disgrace, just decided to come back again, ran a really lazy, entitled primary, I guess. And so he didn't get over the finish line or whatever. And Mamdani did. So Cuomo's still like, running. And Eric Adams, he dropped out. But it's just there was nobody that could, with a good resume, who could like speak to the people, run a good campaign, that could outshine these guys. Like it it just boggles the mind. Like, this is the bench. This is their bench in one of the greatest cities of the world. It's wild to me. But Mamdani was seen with a not so good guy, and even the ADL said something, and people are like, finally. Mamdani appears smiling, arm in arm with 93 World Trade Center bombing co-conspirator and terrorist apologist. So I'm gonna play some clips from this man. And there's a nice compilation of, I guess, some of his greatest hits here. I'm gonna shrink myself so you guys can maybe read that a little better.
You don't get involved because it's the American thing to do. You get involved in politics because politics can be a weapon to use to aid the cause of Islam. It is an honor to die as you have. Yes, it's an honor.
You want to defend this country. You know what this country is? It's a garbage can. It's filthy. Filthy and sick.
Every day they would go to school and they'll put an American flag in front of these little babies, Muslim babies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Bullshit!
You don't get involved because it's the American thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You don't get involved in politics because it's the American thing to do. You get involved because it can be a weapon to use in the case of Islam. So I think that's very interesting. His dad's an interesting character too, but he has gotten some backlash here. He also said, like, in the debate with Andrew Cuomo, he scolded him. He's like, "How many mosques have you visited? You can't name one mosque." And I'm like, is that really the criticism now? Like, you haven't visited a mosque, therefore you can't be the mayor of the city? Like, just first of all, I wouldn't campaign in one. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't do what's in the best interest for all citizens in the city that I would represent. But no, even elected officials are entitled to their faiths, and I just wouldn't be strolling in I guess a place that I didn't believe. We can meet at other places and talk about the issues. I just wouldn't be headed to my. I know people do go to visit those places all the time, and they don't share the beliefs or whatever. There's people who are obviously not Christian who show up in churches and stuff, and they just want to go where the people is. But I don't know. I found that a little weird too. Like, the Democrats show up at a church, and I don't know, like, let's say Cory Booker, for example. Cory Booker, will go to a church and appeal to the people. And I'm like, weren't you obsessed with gay sex? Like, like asking different nominees, like, well, how do you feel about gay sex? Like, do you think that's an abomination? And like, how many people have you married as a judge? How many gay couples have you married? Like, asking those questions and stuff. And it's like, bro, like, when you go to these churches to try to get the votes from those people, how much do you question those pastors or whatever and grill them about their beliefs and so on? Like, it wasn't appropriate doing it there, and you know, want to basically disqualify people based off of their religious opinions and views or whatever, and then you want to go to the church and get their votes. I just think it's so slimy, you know. um anyway, this is an article from oh, there's a new article uh that New York Post pointed out, because his this imam had posted things in the past saying that I guess being gay is a disease of this society. And their little coalition can't really stick together. They got all these different kind of views, you know, that queers for Palestine don't really make a lot of sense when you read the Quran and think about how they think of gay people, or, you know, Gaza throwing people off buildings and things like that. But this is article from New York Post. Muslims rip Mamdani's association with controversial imam accused of terror ties, hatred for the United States. Muslims are blasting Zohran Mamdani's association with controversial imam Saraj Wahal, warning, or Wahaj, warning that the legitimizing the former terror suspect could fuel radical extremism. I am particularly concerned to see mosques used as political rallying platforms in free and democratic United States, said Dalia Zada, a Muslim scholar and fellow at the Institute Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. By embracing him, Zohran Mamdani is sidelining moderate Muslims and normalizing an extremist ideology that once inspired terror on American soil and still fuels radicalization within segments of the Muslim community today, she told Fox News. So, yeah, folks are concerned. The dire concern comes after Mamdani, 34, posted a video of himself visiting with him, a man federal prosecutors once considered an unindicted co-conspirator of the fatal 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and who once even called on Muslims to infiltrate American democracy for use as a weapon of Islamic causes. Despite those allegations and his past comments, Mamdani, New York City's leading mayoral candidate and a lefty democratic socialist, called the prominent imam one of the nation's foremost Muslim leaders and a pillar of the Stewie community for nearly half a century. After meeting with him on Friday, Azadia said she fears that Mamdani's embrace of him will set back American Muslims who reject religious extremism by deepening the prejudice they have come face from past terror attacks. It sends the wrong message to moderate Muslims who are working hard to separate faith from extremism, she said, and it tells the broader American public that those aspiring to lead this country have forgotten what extremist ideology once did to New York skyline. So yeah, some folks are calling him out. Not just Muslims, obviously. The ADL did say something and gave some background on him as well. So, I don't think it's. I hope that matters. I hope that makes a difference. I don't know that it will. There's so many red flags about Zohran Mamdani. I don't know. I mean, I don't live in New York. I don't know what the ads are like. I don't know what people are seeing on their local TV. I don't think a lot of the mainstream media, they ask some questions, but I don't think they do a great job really exposing him and his communist ways, and they let him kind of smile and lie and, you know, get around the different questions that he's different things that should be more poignant about. They don't really hold his feet to the fire, and a lot of folks on the left are unfortunately just radicalized already. They're so into identity politics. They want to eat the rich, and they don't mind a communist. You know, even though some of the richest people in the world live in New York and benefit New York, and if they did raise like astronomical taxes, they would leave, or many of them would leave or want to leave, and that would put obviously them in a bind, or they could find some kind of loophole to get out of it, and a lot of like mom and pop shops and things like that will be impacted negatively because of their dumb policies. Some people are ready to let just New York fall and fail miserably and be like, well, you tried communism and it didn't work out before you did it. But I would rather not see New York or the Democrats this far gone. Like, I don't want this to be the winning strategy, winning direction for the Democrats. I don't want to see that. I want to see them push back against this and prove that they are not nearly as crazy as we fear that they are, and we will see. And of course, like, New York isn't the same as like other places. But I don't know. We've had radicals in Michigan for a minute. They're not as bad as him, but they're very bad. Like, our attorney general is very radical, and I don't want this to be the message that the Democrats take. Like, we can go in this direction. This is the new future. This is what our bench should look like. It's not what I want to see. It's not what I'm not going to take glee from like New York just failing or him winning, or I'm not, And I still want to go to New York Comic Con, and I like for it to be safe. I'd like for their police not to be defunded. I never made it to the New York Comic Con. I would like to go and have a booth there or something one day. It's been a long time since I've been to New York. Been a long time. Yeah, so I just I hope the Democrats got something better in them than Zohran Mamdani. There's also a interesting story. There was an alleged pro-Hamas October 7th attacker that was living in Louisiana. It's funny, there's certain headlines, if you look them up, it says Louisiana man, as if, I don't know, if you read Louisiana man, would you think someone who like recently came over? Would you think they were like a longtime resident of Louisiana and grew up in Louisiana? So it's just kind of weird what they do with the headlines, because a lot of people just kind of read headlines, and I guess I don't understand the, like, let's set it up with this headline, and then somewhere in the details of the story you will get the truth. Even if you bury it in paragraph 17, you're gonna see it. Anyway, an alleged Hamas-linked terrorist who took part in the slaughter of 60 people on October 7th in 2023 at the Israeli kibbutz and promised it'd spark a third world war was nabbed this week hiding out in Louisiana in the first case of its kind in the U.S. Mohammed Amin Yaqub al-Mutadi, 33, was cuffed Thursday in Lafayette, where he had been living in Louisiana, where he had been living and working after lying on a visa documents about his involvement in terrorism against Israel, according to a criminal complaint. In actuality, he was a member of the Hamas-linked military group, and when he heard about the October 7th massacre, he rallied other terrorists, crossed into Israel, and participated in the slaughter of an Israeli village kibbutz that day, the feds allege. Isn't it wild how these people get in the country? The massacre resulted in the murder of 60 people and the kidnapping of 19, including the deaths of 4 Americans and the capture of 1 more, alleges the complaint filed in federal court in the Western District of Louisiana. A senior official who trained senior official who trained youth militants in the National Resistance Brigades, a military wing of the Democratic Front of the Liberation of Palestine, heard the calls to arms from Hamas commander Muhammad Deif at 8:12 a.m. on the tragic day and sprung into action, the filing alleges. He spent the next 2 hours coordinating a group of armed fighters to join him in traveling from Gaza to Israel to participate in Hamas's attack. And by 10:01 a.m., the cell phone data placed him near the kibbutz. In the court paper alleges that in the preceding hours, he giddily discussed Hamas's attacks and planned how he and his men would join in a series of phone calls reviewed by the U.S. law enforcement agent, which the complaint lays bare. "We are ready, man. If you want me to go east with you, I'm ready," one recruit told him in an 8:12 a.m. call. The complaint alleges, "Get ready, the borders are open, I swear," he responded. At 8:42 a.m. call with another man, he said, "There's lots of soldiers that have been kidnapped. It's game, which will be a good one. If things go the way they should, Syria will take part, Lebanon will take part. It's going to be a third world war. It'll be a war of attritions. That would be perfect," he added. Which, recall, like, there was a fear that all these other countries and groups would get involved and start attacking Israel while they were vulnerable. And they were like attacked by other groups or whatever. But just thinking now how things have turned around in the Middle East is just, for Israel, is really amazing. But they were hoping that basically Israel would be obliterated. Just want to remind everybody. Other calls he made on October 7th, 2023 included him urging others to bring rifles, ammunition, and magazines, according to the court papers. Among those murdered by Hamas and militants at the kibbutz that day were Americans, including a 38-year-old woman and her photographer husband, a 67-year-old woman and her husband, a 22-year-old American serving in the Israel Defense Forces who came to help the kibbutz. The complaint says the 38-year-old woman's 3-year-old daughter was captured and held as hostage for 50 days. The filing added, after participating in the horrific attacks, he applied for a U.S. visa from Cairo, Egypt on June 26, 2024. On the application forms, he falsely claimed he didn't have any specialized military training. He wasn't part of a military group. He had never engaged in terrorism and wasn't a member of such an organization. He also claimed he never murdered anyone. The complaint alleges he migrated to Tulsa, Oklahoma on September 12, 2024, claiming he planned to work in car repairs or food services. The filing alleges a few days later, he sent a message to his friend saying he couldn't post anymore about Hamas now that he was in the U.S., the complaint claims. But in February 20th, 2025, social media post, he flaunted a Glock 26 9mm gun. The complaint alleges, including pictures of the firearm. The FBI first located him in Lafayette in June 2025. The complaint specifies he appeared at Lafayette federal courtroom Friday morning on one count of fraud and misuse of the visa and one count on providing or attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization. He has not yet entered a plea in the case. That's all. There's got to be more that they can like dump on this guy. He was ordered held without bail until a detention hearing on Wednesday. He faces up to life in prison if convicted on the terrorism charge alone. U.S. Attorney General Mamdani lauded the arrest that was carried out by the Joint Task Force 10-7, which is responsible for prosecuting people involved in the terror attack in Israel. After hiding out in the United States, this monster has been found and charged with participating in the atrocities of October 7th, the single deadliest day for Jewish people since the Holocaust. It's just amazing because I just remember during the primary, there was this question of like having Palestinian refugees, and DeSantis was like, nope, not gonna happen. And I'm like, I like that answer. And you had Nikki Haley, who was pretty squishy on the answer, and she kind of changed it up based off of like how much like outrage she was getting, was kind of dishonest about her answers a bit. So I wasn't a fan of Nikki Haley. She had like moments before, but like in the primary, I wasn't too fond. But and just thinking like how concerned there were Americans about some of these people coming over as refugees, and the literal terrorists who committed the massacre got over on Biden's watch. It was just chilling in Louisiana and just planned to like, I don't know, be your car repair salesman or whatever. It's it's insane. You don't know who is over here. You don't know what they've done. You don't know their background. You don't know if they killed people. You don't know what they may be planning. What if Hamas said, we're going to call to arms and go attack and kill Americans? Because they killed Americans over there. They killed Americans over there. Ugh. That's just really, really, really crazy to think about. Really crazy to think about. I commend them for getting him, and if there's more, I hope they get more. But it's really eerie. And do they not check these visas? Do they not do good backgrounds on these people when they come over? It's wild. It is wild. Anyway, last thing I want to mention before I let you guys go. I think I'll table the No King's Day video that I was maybe going to show you guys until tomorrow, because we are like over on our time. But I can't get over how stupid I think all this is with the No King's Day. And if they want to go ahead, and they did have some big gatherings that were sponsored by democratic socialists and communists and all, and their countries protesting that actually do have kings, and it's really insane to me. But Donald Trump, he has been, like, they say stuff like, we don't jail our political opponents. I'm like, did you not try to put him in jail? Did you not go after him and go after other people who were like in his former administration, like as much as you could? Did the FBI director not admit to like setting up Michael Flynn, or like, oh, they're really green, we can send people over and he's not going to be, even think to try to be protected under White House counsel, like, it did the last president not spy on him and spy on us, by the way? Obama like used the Espionage Act on reporters and spied on them, but they're looking through like our phone data or records or something like that back when he was president. And when he got confronted, he's like, well, some of your Congress people know it too, so it's not like I'm doing it in a big secret. Joe Biden using the powers to try his powers to try to force people to take the same jab that was done under Operation Warp Speed, which him and Kamala Harris tried to pretend like it wasn't safe. Like, they didn't come out 100% say, don't take it, it's poison. They didn't say something like that, but they were trying to sow doubt about people taking it, and hesitancy if it came out before the election, because they didn't want there to be any kind of hope, any kind of silver lining by the time that election day hit, because they wanted people to live in fear and all these deaths to be pinned on Trump, et cetera, et cetera. And that same vaccine, they're like, oh, you better take it or you're going to lose your job. All these different people who embraced the lockdowns, wouldn't let you go on a boat if you had a motor, and we're keeping kids out of school. We're arresting people on, beaches, filling up skate parks with sand, and while they like went to the French Laundry and did all kind of crazy stuff. And you want me to think that Trump is some kind of king? Like, he works really hard. Like, he tweeted something like, I'm not a king, I work really hard, I work my butt off, and to do all this stuff while the government is locked down, which is locked down because of the Democrats, and they keep saying, oh, well, we're not the ones in charge. Well, good and well that they need 60 votes to open the government, and you don't want to do that. It's your shutdown. If Trump could wave his hands and get it open or whatever, it would just be open. But he's still working. And they got the hostages back, got that deal done. Now, we don't know what that peace agreement or whatever is going to look like, because Hamas has been going in, killing a bunch of Palestinians, and there were 2 Israeli soldiers that were killed. So Israel pushed back. So I don't know how long that's going to last. I'm glad that the hostages are back. But if they continue, if the different like splintered groups with Hamas continue killing people, Trump might feel like Israel can go in and take care of it. Other countries go in and take care of it. We're not sending our guys, but go ahead and, they need to disarm, and they're clearly not, So at least he got the hostages back. At least they're back. So there's these big wins for Donald Trump. And they're like, let's go out and protest him and call him a fascist, even though we don't know the definition of it. Let's say that he's breaking the law. I saw a video, the one I'm going to probably just show you guys tomorrow, just to, like, I guess, preface it or whatever. You know, someone said everything he's done in office, you know, since he got in office has been illegal. He's just committing crimes. I'm like, that's obviously ridiculous. I can think of an example of like him like breaking the law. Like, everybody, not everybody, a lot of people are on TikTok. You're not breaking the law by being on TikTok, but there was a law that was passed that if these people still have it in the app stores, they're supposed to have a significant fine every day that it's open. And Trump was like, well, we're not gonna basically follow that law, because he wanted to get some kind of deal done to keep TikTok open, because I don't know, he likes TikTok because he did well on TikTok, and Charlie Kirk started doing well on TikTok or whatever, and they start changing their minds about it and so on. So but they still passed that law, and he didn't actually have the capacity to really operate and do what he's doing, but he's doing it anyway. That's an example, but people want to bring that up because they like TikTok. But to say everything he's been doing, like, and they get mad about people illegally coming into our country and them being deported, and they're like, well, that's wrong. No, it's the correct remedy to the situation, and it's not evil to give people a free ride home. Like, so it's just really bonkers that all these people are continuing to do this. It doesn't change anything. He's still your president, your democratically elected president who won the popular vote. He didn't just win the electoral college, he won the popular vote. And I know it was really close with the popular vote, but he swept all the swing states. So, and you know, he would have won by a bigger margin as far as the electoral college if they had appropriated that properly with the census, but they like screwed that up or whatever. So it should have been a bigger wipeout than what it was. And they still can't like accept it. I'm not saying they're not saying that he's not president right now, but they did try that crap in the past. Some people want to pretend like he didn't legitimately win, but which that's not, I'm not saying that's a big number or whatever. They were more into the conspiracies in 2016, and they were blaming Russia and all kinds of different stuff. But they'll say stuff like, oh, well, if everybody was just, it was racism, you know, it was sexism. Like that's why they lost. No, she was a really bad candidate. And if you don't want to analyze those things, then lose again, I guess. But she wasn't forced to go through a primary. Joe Biden wasn't forced to go through a primary. There are opponents who wanted to run against him, and the DNC would not even entertain it. Of course they wouldn't entertain it. But Joe Biden said that he was a transitionary figure when he was running the first time. So he shouldn't have ran again. And once he decided that he was going to, the DNC and the Democrats should have been like, okay, we are going to have a primary. And that wouldn't have been probably good for them in the long run anyway, but it would have been better, and they would have had a better chance than what happened. So Donald Trump had everything thrown at him, and he's still there in that Oval Office. And I understand people don't like it, but he's certainly not a king. And he gets sued all the time by activist judges. I'm not saying he does everything correct and by the books, and the law doesn't challenge him sometimes. But like some of the stuff they come against him for is just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm glad that he's won some different victories. But he is no king. And everybody knows that. Everyone understands that, or should understand that. Some people don't. They're crazy. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it costs a streamer on my site, all the good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much appreciate you guys. You guys can check out a link in the description where you guys can pre-order my book, Bigger. You guys can also sign up for the painting classes as well. There's a link there. And if you guys want to support, there's also a donate link. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.